This Parliament is a dead Parliament. It should no longer sit. It has no moral right to sit on these green benches, and whatever they don't like the truth. Twice they have been asked to let the electorate decide upon whether they should continue to sit in their seats while they block 17.4 million people's votes. This Parliament is a disgrace. Given the opportunity, since I am asked, let me tell them the truth. They could vote no confidence at any time, but they're too cowardly. They could agree to a motion to allow this House to dissolve, but they're too cowardly to give it a go. This Parliament should have the courage to face the electorate. But it won't. It won't, because so many of them are really all about preventing us leaving the European Union at all. But the time is coming. The time is coming, Mr. Speaker, when even these turkeys won't be able to prevent Christmas.
The corridors of Westminster are trembling tonight. What started as hushed conversations behind closed doors has exploded into a political shockwave. Senior MPs have stepped forward, letters have been filed, secret meetings have unfolded, and now the moment many thought impossible has arrived. A no-confidence vote has been launched against the Prime Minister. This is far more than routine criticism or a symbolic gesture. It is a direct strike at the very heart of government authority. The leader's grip on power suddenly looks fragile. Allies are rushing to contain the damage. Rivals are watching closely, and one question now echoes through every corner of Parliament. Can he hold on? The move to challenge Keir Starmer did not appear overnight. It grew from weeks of rising tension, quiet anger, and deepening concern among political ranks, as pressure steadily mounted behind the scenes until it finally burst into the open. Disputes over economic strategy, party cohesion, and public communication began exposing clear fractures beneath the surface of government. While the Prime Minister maintained an image of calm authority in front of cameras, reports from inside party discussions painted a far more tense picture. Crucially, unease was no longer confined to the opposition benches. Even figures once seen as unwavering allies started expressing quiet doubts about direction and leadership style. The breaking point followed a string of fiery exchanges in Parliament that intensified national scrutiny. Critics claimed the government's response to major challenges lacked both clarity and urgency. Economic data became a battleground of competing interpretations. Public trust appeared increasingly fragile, and polling hinted at instability rather than confidence. In that charged environment, patience among some MPs began to fade, and the message from dissenting voices grew unmistakably firm. Leadership must earn confidence, not only with strong words, but with visible results. The moment the motion was formally submitted, Westminster erupted with reaction. A wave of shock swept through government ranks, as senior ministers hurried into urgent private meetings, and party strategists began rapidly counting potential votes. A no-confidence challenge is far more than a symbolic move. It is a direct test of leadership authority. If the Prime Minister fails to hold support, the fallout can be swift and dramatic, with power shifting in a single parliamentary moment, and even if survival is secured, the damage can leave deep political scars. Loyal supporters of Starmer quickly condemned the move as reckless and potentially destabilizing, warning that launching such a challenge during a delicate economic period could shake national confidence. They argued that public political battles risk sending troubling signals to financial markets and international partners, insisting that real reform demands steady resolve and strategic patience rather than sudden panic. Those backing the motion argue that accountability cannot wait. In their view, allowing uncertainty to linger would do more harm than confronting the issue head-on. Inside Parliament, the atmosphere quickly tightened as discussions turned sharply strategic. MPs began weighing loyalty against political survival, knowing every decision could shape their future. Some worried that standing firmly behind the Prime Minister might cost them their seats, while others feared that removing him could fracture the party from within. Every path carried serious consequences. Beyond Westminster, the reaction from the public was just as intense. News of the vote spread at lightning speed, with supporters calling it a betrayal and critics describing it as long overdue accountability. Social platforms filled with speculation, leadership theories, and growing chatter about the possibility of snap elections. What makes this moment particularly volatile is its timing. The country is already facing economic strain, global uncertainty, and major domestic reforms, and in such a delicate climate, a no-confidence vote injects a powerful surge of unpredictability into an already fragile political landscape. Every conversation became deliberate. Every public appearance carried signals beneath the surface. For Starr, the battle was no longer about defending policies. It was about protecting authority at its most vulnerable moment. A no-confidence vote is far more than a procedural step. It is a public examination of loyalty where even hesitation becomes impossible to hide. Inside government ranks, urgent meetings began almost instantly as senior figures worked tirelessly to measure support. In Parliament, survival depends not on speeches or headlines, but on solid numbers and firm commitments. Party whips reached out to MPs one by one, seeking assurances, offering explanations, and attempting to calm frustrations that had been building for months. For many MPs, the vote forced a difficult decision between personal conviction and political survival. The unrest itself had deeper roots than any single dispute. Economic pressure had gradually weakened confidence in leadership. Rising cost concerns, funding debates, and policy disagreements widened cracks within the party, and while the Prime Minister called for patience and unity, critics insisted that voters were demanding clear and visible change. As tensions deepened divisions, the opposition sensed opportunity, portraying the vote as evidence that instability stemmed from within the governing party itself rather than external criticism. They argued that true leadership is measured by cohesion, not just words. Financial markets responded with caution, aware that even whispers of uncertainty at the top can sway sentiment, while analysts scrutinized official statements for any sign of steadiness. Though no immediate shockwaves hit, vigilance dominated the atmosphere. Inside Parliament, alliances began to shift, forcing previously silent MPs to make choices. Some demanded firmer commitments, others sought clearer policy direction, or improved communication. Authority that once seemed assured now required constant negotiation. Meanwhile, public debate surged, with citizens split on whether the vote was a demonstration of accountability or a perilous distraction from urgent national priorities. Beneath the headlines, the emotional undertone reflected deep anxieties about economic security and the country's political direction. For Starmer, the battle extended far beyond mere vote counts. Leadership under scrutiny demands unshakable composure, every speech dissected, every gesture analyzed, because political authority rests as much on perception as on policy. Confidence can stabilize wavering support, while visible strain can ignite further doubt. Meanwhile, quiet speculation about potential successors began to surface. No contest had been declared, but the psychological door to replacement had cracked open, instantly shifting power dynamics. This phase became a pivotal moment. The vote would determine immediate survival, yet its effects would reverberate long after. Even a victory would require mending the fractures that allowed the challenge to emerge, while defeat could redraw the political map overnight. As Parliament edged closer to its decision, tension thickened, conversations grew hushed but sharper, and behind closed doors, firm commitments were urgently sought. The nation held its breath, aware that the outcome would shape not just party leadership, but the country's trajectory. Every calculation carried historic weight. For some MPs, unseating Starmer risked opening the door to chaos that rivals could exploit. For others, retaining him without meaningful reform threatened even greater electoral fallout down the line. The stakes stretched far beyond a single vote. Inside party headquarters, crisis teams worked around the clock, crafting messaging that emphasized stability and responsibility, while allies flooded media channels projecting unity and insisting the government remained focused on recovery, reform, and international credibility. They framed the vote as a dangerous distraction, but behind closed doors, the truth was clear: the numbers would decide everything. Meanwhile, the opposition amplified its stance, presenting the vote as a constitutional safeguard rather than opportunism, arguing that true accountability is what ultimately strengthens democracy. Public reaction surged across the nation, with voters measuring leadership less by parliamentary maneuvering and more by its tangible impact on daily life. International eyes remained fixed, aware that Britain's global standing hinges on consistent authority, while markets adopted a cautious wait-and-see stance. Stability within Starmer's inner circle was no longer guaranteed, prompting a strategic pivot toward consolidation. Personal appeals were made to undecided MPs, emphasizing that unity now could prevent far deeper disruption later. Survival demanded more than loyalty; it required persuasion, and even a successful outcome would not instantly restore full authority. A narrow escape signals weakness. A decisive victory demands immediate steps to rebuild trust. Meanwhile, quiet speculation about potential successors grew. For once alternatives enter the imagination, defending the present becomes far more difficult. Above all, the crisis exposed a core truth: leadership is only as strong as the confidence it inspires. Political authority is built on trust, and once shaken, it is rarely restored easily. The no-confidence vote thrust long-simmering tensions into the open, and as decision day arrived, Westminster teetered on the brink of a defining moment. Calculations replaced conversation. Supporters readied statements of unity, critics sharpened arguments for change, and the Prime Minister maintained a measured composure, knowing every gesture would be scrutinized. The chamber was poised to determine whether his leadership would endure or collapse in an instant. Yet regardless of the outcome, one truth was undeniable: the era of unquestioned authority had ended. As the vote drew near, the halls of Parliament bore the full weight of history, and for Starr, months of doubt and debate converged into a single, public trial of leadership. Survival hinged not just on numbers, but on credibility and the perception of command. Behind closed doors, loyalty was courted through a mix of persuasion and pressure, with every commitment carrying weight. The opposition pressed its case with careful precision, presenting the vote as a democratic imperative, while public scrutiny amplified the stakes. Supporters rallied, critics demanded change, and markets along with international partners watched intently. Stability depends as much on perception as on reality, and for Starmer, the vote represented both threat and opportunity. Survival could reinforce authority, but only if followed by decisive, visible action. Leadership is measured not merely by ballots, but by the confidence it inspires in moments of crisis, and this defining moment would shape everything that followed.